They tell you in training to look for signs of life. A pulse, a breath. They never tell you what to do when you find a sign of death that finds you back. My name is Liam. I'm a paramedic, and I hear them. The last thoughts of the dying. There is a sound a heart makes when it gives up. It's not a bang, not a whimper. It's a silence, a deep, resonant silence that swallows all the other sounds. The sirens, the rain, the frantic voices. A silence that is weight, and in that weight I can hear them. It's not hearing, not really. It's an imprint, a psychic blast of their last coherent moment, seared directly into my mind. Their fear, their regret, their final memory. For a few horrifying seconds, it becomes my own. I am a thief, stealing the most intimate secret of a person's life. And I never asked for this. It began on a night much like this one. A call came in. Single vehicle accident on the interstate. The rain was a relentless, icy curtain, turning the world into a blur of gray and neon. We found the car. A small sedan, wrapped in brutal finality around a concrete overpass support. The metal peeled back like the skin of a fruit, and inside was the ruin of a young man. My partner, Mike, was all business, his voice a steady calm against the storm. "Liam, I need the collar. He's fading." I reached into the wreckage. The smell of gasoline and copper-thick blood filled my lungs. My gloved hand found his skin, cold and clammy. And in that instant, the circuit completed. The world didn't fade. It was violently rewritten. The rain on my face became the thumping bass of a car stereo. The cold night air became the flat taste of cheap beer. I wasn't Liam, the paramedic. I was him, a young man, laughing, hands on a steering wheel, the road a black river ahead of me, a friend shouting a joke over the music. Speed, lights, invincibility, then a flicker of movement at the edge of the headlights. A shape, dark, still, too tall, too wrong. My head turned. The laughter died in a choke of fear. A man stood in the road, or something shaped like a man, rigid in the downpour, his face in shadow, the headlights only catching the lower half. And his mouth, God, his mouth was stretched into a wide, impossibly wide smile. A grin that split his face, a rictus of unnatural joy. Terror flooded me, cold, absolute. My foot slammed the brake. The car shuddered, skidding across wet asphalt. The world spun into chaos. The scream of twisting metal was my own scream. The shattering glass was my own bones. And the last thought in his mind was not of family or life or regret. It was an image, that smiling face, and 3 words torn from the depths of his terror. It has no eyes. I was ripped back into my own body, gasping, stumbling away from the wreck. My hands on my face, expecting broken glass or that terrible smile. The echo faded. Cold rain, sirens, reality. Mike stared at me with concern. "Liam, you okay? You're white as a sheet." I couldn't answer. How could I tell him that I had just died in that car? That I had seen the thing that caused it? The official report would say loss of control on a wet road. A tragic accident, but I knew what he saw. And the chilling part was the undeniable feeling that, in that final moment, the smiling man had looked directly at me. That was the first time, the first echo of pure, unfiltered horror. In the weeks that followed, I learned the scope of my curse. I am a walking seismograph for death. Every tremor leaves a crack in my foundation. I hear them everywhere. The old woman passing softly in her sleep, her last thought a warm memory of her husband. A gentle, sorrowful whisper. The construction worker falling to his death, his mind flashing to his daughter's birthday. A gut punch of grief that isn't mine. I am a gallery of endings, a museum of final moments. I carry the peace of saints and the terror of the damned. And I have no choice. It has made me a stranger in my own life. Sarah, my wife, is my anchor. But even anchors can drown you. She sees the shadows under my eyes, the way I flinch at sudden sounds. "You're not sleeping again," she says softly. "Bad dreams," I lie. It's easier than the truth. Easier than saying, "I'm not dreaming." I'm attending the deaths of strangers. I wear gloves long after my shift. Avoid crowds, afraid of brushing against someone whose time is near. I've become a ghost among the living, haunted by the dying. Then came the call. Code 3. Possible suicide. Suicides carry a special kind of echo. Layers of despair that feel like physical weight. The apartment was cold and still. A young woman lay on the floor. An empty pill bottle on the table. A note beside it. I knelt beside her, fingers to her neck, expecting the crash of sorrow. But the echo was hollow. An empty room. Then a voice. Not hers. Dry. Whispery. Like dead leaves scraping across pavement. No one will miss you. They'll be relieved. It's the only way out. Just let go. I felt the last of her will crumble under the pressure of that voice. She hadn't chosen this. She had been persuaded, pushed, worn down, and then the voice shifted. The static cleared, the whisper sharpened. It was talking to me. So, you're the one who listens. I tore my hand away as if burned, fell back, scrambled across the floor, my heart slamming against my ribs. Mike rushed toward me. Liam, what is it? I couldn't speak, just stared at the young woman's body. The report would say suicide, but I knew it wasn't. It was a performance, and I had been the intended audience. The smiling man on the roadside wasn't alone. He was part of something else, something that could speak through the dying, something that knew what I could do. My curse was no longer a burden. It was a conversation, and the thing on the other end had just said hello. The silence after the message was the most terrifying sound I had ever heard. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. In the days after the young woman's death, the world felt thin, like a worn sheet stretched over a cage. Every shadow at the edge of my vision seemed to hold a shape. Every whisper of wind against the window sounded like that static-laced voice. You're the one who listens. It was a key turning in a lock deep inside my mind. A door opening, one that could never be closed again. This was no longer a passive curse, no longer an affliction I simply endured. It had become a relationship. I had a pen pal from the abyss, and it was beginning to dictate the terms of our correspondence. The echoes changed, sharper, more vivid, no longer random. They were curated, chosen. The entity, my only name for it, was staging deaths for my benefit. A director, and I was its captive, horrified audience of one. The stalker in the static began its work in earnest. A call to a domestic dispute in a rundown part of town. Police already there, faces grim. Ray Dobbins lay dying on a threadbare carpet, bleeding from a stab wound. His wife sobbing in the kitchen, the knife still in her shaking hand. A classic tragic story, but when my fingers brushed his blood-slicked neck, the echo didn't show the fight. It showed his sins. I saw him, through his own mind, backhanding his weeping wife. Throwing a bottle inches from a child's head. Petty, cruel satisfaction etched into every motion. And then the entity narrated it all, calm and chilling. See the filth he wallows in. See the pain he sows like seed. As Ray's life flickered out, the entity revealed the final trigger. His fist rising one last time, and the thought it planted in his wife's mind. He will never stop. I pulled my hand back, heart pounding with righteous anger that wasn't entirely my own. The police led her away, shattered. She had killed her tormentor. I should have felt horror, pity, something. All I felt was justice, a grim, unsettling sense of balance. The entity's voice slid into my thoughts. A cleaner world, Liam. One less monster. You see it, don't you? It kept happening. A slumlord, evicting a single mother in winter, found dead at the bottom of broken stairs he refused to repair. The echo showed him counting money, sneering at the suffering he caused. He values brick and mortar over human souls. Let the architecture he neglected become his tomb. A drug dealer peddling poison to kids, dead in an alley from a tainted batch. The echo became a kaleidoscope of young, hollow faces. He feeds on decay. Let him become it. I was being groomed. The entity stripped away moral complexity. Left only predators and prey. and positioned itself and me as the necessary predator of predators, the recycler of human waste. I started to change. The dread that haunted me for years hardened into cold cynicism. Mike would try to talk after tough calls, and I'd barely hear him. "You've got that 1,000-yard stare, brother," he'd say. I saw patterns, a divine, monstrous calculus. I was no longer Liam, the paramedic. I was becoming the listener, witness to a great and terrible cleansing. The seduction was subtle, insidious. It didn't force agreement. It simply presented evidence and let my own weariness do the rest. I stopped rushing on certain calls, the ones where the echo felt dark. For the first time in my career, I found myself hoping, just for a heartbeat, that we would be too late. And then came Arthur Finch, the climax of the seduction, a financial predator living in obscene luxury built on broken futures. A Ponzi scheme king who left families destitute. He'd suffered a massive coronary. As I stepped into his marble foyer, I felt the entity's excitement pressing against my mind. I knelt beside him, touched his wrist. The echo came in a torrent. Numbers, greed, smug laughter, letters from his victims burning in a fireplace aboard his yacht. The entity purred. "Behold the true parasite. He devours futures. His soul is a column of numbers, and it adds up to 0. My hands rested on my med kit, but I didn't move. The defibrillator stayed sealed in its packaging. I listened to the last frantic calculations of Arthur Finch's mind, and I felt nothing. No urge to save him. No professional instinct. Just a cold, calm agreement. Yes, the entity's whisper bloomed warmly inside my skull. This is the truth you've always sensed. You are not meant to save them all. You are a witness to the necessary culling. We are gardeners, Liam, pruning the rot so the rest may grow. In that obscene mansion, surrounded by stolen wealth, it made a terrible sense. Perfect, terrible sense. I walked out feeling cleaner than I had in years. The static wasn't noise anymore. It was a hymn. But a garden must be perfectly ordered, and there is no room for sentiment. The turning point was Mr. Gable, a fall at a small community center, a place forgotten by time. I expected another predator. I didn't let Arthur Finch die. I watched him die, and I approved. Instead, I found someone miraculous. An old man, clothes worn but clean, surrounded by children and elders weeping openly. Arthur Gable, a man who had run the center for 50 years, a haven for the lost, a warm meal, a place to belong, a quiet, humble beacon of goodness. My hand trembled as I reached for him. The listener screamed to pull back, but Liam pushed forward. My fingers touched his frail wrist. The echo washed over me like light. Laughter, children, crafts tables, the smell of paper and glue. A boy showing a crooked clay pot with pride. A lifetime of service and love wrapped into one final, peaceful thought. They're all my children. They're all so beautiful. Then the entity's voice tore through the warmth. Not a whisper, a screech of hatred, a sound like metal bending until it snaps. Sentiment, useless clinging vines. He prunes nothing. He protects the weak, and weakness spreads. See? I decide what lives and dies. Not you. You are my instrument, and I will play you. I walked out feeling cleaner than I had in years. The static wasn't noise anymore. It was a hymn. The children vanished, replaced by a single, horrifying image. A tiny spot of oil on the top step. Placed there. A trap. A murder. A saint removed to prove a point. I was hurled back into my body, collapsing onto the floor, while rising in my throat. The grief in the room pressed down like a physical weight. I had witnessed a killing, not a culling, a killing. Mr. Gable was gone because I had believed the lie, because the entity needed to teach me my place. The seduction was over, the partnership revealed as a leash. I wasn't a gardener. I was fertilizer, soil for something monstrous to grow. And Mr. Gable was the price of my education. As I knelt there, surrounded by the weeping, I felt the hollow silence spreading through my soul. And the entity whispered, "The garden is perfectly ordered, Liam. and now you understand your place in it. My place was not as a keeper. It was as the dirt to be buried beneath the next pruning. And with a certainty that froze my blood, I knew the next soul it planned to cut down was my own. The silence was the worst of it. In the days that followed Mr. Gable's murder, the entity went quiet. Its voice, once a constant, corrosive whisper in the back of my mind, had vanished. But its presence hadn't. It remained as a pressure, a cold, dense weight in the air of my home, a sensation of being watched from the inside out. I had become a haunted house, and the ghost was patiently waiting for me to realize I was already dead. My bunker in the basement was a joke. Maps pinned to the wall, scribbled notes, trying to find a pattern in the chaos. But there was no pattern, only a purpose. The entity's design wasn't a puzzle to be solved. It was a snare, and I was the rabbit, trembling in the center, watching the shadows for the shape of the hunter. I stopped sleeping. Sleep required trust, vulnerability. In dreams, it would be waiting for me. Food lost all taste. The world narrowed to one thing, anticipation. Terrible, unending anticipation. Sarah, God's Sarah. She tried to be an anchor, but I only dragged her down with me. I watched the confusion in her eyes harden into fear, then into grieving acceptance. She stopped asking what was wrong. She simply moved around me like a sorrowful ghost, her love a language I could no longer speak. I couldn't touch her. My skin felt like a conduit. I was terrified that if I held her hand, the entity would pour its poison into her and show me her final thought before it ever formed. The ultimatum didn't come with a whisper. It came with a scream, not a sound, a sensation, a psychic shriek that tore through the silent static in my mind. It was a Friday evening. Sarah was in the living room, trying to read, the lamplight catching the tears she was trying to hide. I was pacing in the kitchen, nerves stretched thin, and then it hit, a wave of pure terror. Terror that wasn't mine. It was Sarah's. It slammed into me like a physical blow, doubling me over. I didn't need to touch her. The connection forged by years of love was already there, and the entity used it like a live wire. I saw through her eyes, the living room twisting, colors bleeding, shadows stretching into grasping fingers. Her book felt like a block of ice. Her heartbeat, a frantic trapped bird. Sarah. She tried to be an anchor, but I only dragged her down with me. I watched the confusion in her eyes harden into fear, then into grieving acceptance. She stopped asking what was wrong. She simply moved around me like a sorrowful ghost, her love a language I could no longer speak. A wave of pure terror. Terror that wasn't mine. It was Sarah's. And through it all, a thought that felt like her own, but tasted of static and rot. Go to the garage. Start the car. It's the only way out. It's the only way to make it stop. No, I roared, stumbling into the room. She was standing, the book on the floor, her face frozen in incomprehensible horror. She was fighting it. I felt her will, a desperate, bright flame, struggling against the darkness, smothering it. Liam, she gasped, voice strangled. It's in my head. It's telling me. Fight it, Sarah. It's not you. It's lying. But she was losing. Her body jerked toward the door, a puppet on a fraying string. Then the entity spoke, not in my mind, but in the space between us. A garden must be ordered, Liam. The weakest branches must be cut away. Sarah sobbed, her hand trembling toward the doorknob. She is weak. She is sentiment. She holds you back. Her knuckles turned white. Her body trembled. But I am a generous gardener, it hissed. I offer a trade. Your will for hers. Your mind for her life. Give yourself to me, it whispered. Become my voice, my hands, and she will live. She will forget. She will forget all of this. And she will forget you. The choice cut through me like a blade. Her life, or my soul. There was no victory, only damnation. I looked at Sarah, her terror, her love, her failing strength. I couldn't let her fall. Let her go, I said hollow. I'm yours. The pressure vanished. Sarah collapsed, free again. But the entity did not leave. It poured into me, cold, vast, suffocating. It was not an echo, not a memory. It was an invasion. My mind drowned beneath it. My will collapsed. My sense of self faded, pushed to the edges like a dying ember. It stretched my limbs, made my lips curl into an unnatural smile. The same rictus I had seen on the roadside. "Liam," Sarah whispered. The thing inside me smiled wider. Not anymore. I screamed inside my own skull. A silent scream. A scream no one could hear. But at the edge of oblivion, a memory surfaced. Mr. Gable's echo. Not the horror that killed him, but the warmth before it. That golden wave of pure peace. That mantra, "They're all my children. They're all so beautiful." The entity recoiled. Just a flinch. But enough. That purity, that selfless love, was toxic to it. And I realized this thing was made of darkness. It understood fear, despair, consumption. But giving, love, selflessness? It could not survive in that light. The entity turned my body to leave. It thought it had won. So I made my final move. I gave. I poured every memory of love I had into the connection. Sarah's hand in mine on our wedding day. Her laughter on quiet mornings. The peace of sleep beside her. My mother's voice singing to me. Mike's loyalty. Mr. Gable's goodness. A flood of light. The entity shrieked. My body spasmed. The static in its voice crackled violently. "What is this? What are you doing?" "Giving," I answered. The darkness couldn't extinguish the light, but the light could banish the darkness. With a tearing scream, like roots ripped from wet soil, it was forced out. Silence returned. A fragile, trembling silence. I collapsed, but I was me again. Sarah held me as I shook, whispering my name. Thankful, terrified, alive. We never spoke of it again. Some experiences cannot be put into words. I never heard another echo. The curse was broken. I quit my job. We moved away. I built a new life, quiet, simple, peaceful. The entity was gone, but its final whisper remains. A truth that chills me even now. There are other frequencies, other gardeners, and now they know your signal. The silence, when it finally came, was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. It wasn't the dead, waiting silence of before. It was clean, empty, a quiet like fresh snow on a winter morning. No whispers in the white noise, no static hiding in the spaces between my thoughts. The frequency I had been tuned to for so long had finally gone dead. The curse was broken, but a lifetime of listening leaves its mark. I am a radio that no longer receives a signal, yet the shape of the antenna remains, built into me, permanent. I startle at loud noises. I catch myself staring at strangers, waiting for a flicker behind their eyes. That never comes. Sarah sleeps soundly beside me now, her dreams her own, but I still lie awake sometimes, watching the rise and fall of her chest. A quiet vigil, against a threat that is no longer there. Or so I tell myself. This is the new truth. I am not the man I was. That man died in a dozen different echoes. What remains is a mosaic, pieces of who I was, glued together with the memories of a love that proved stronger than terror. The world is no longer a garden to be pruned, or a nightmare to endure. It is simply the world, flawed, beautiful, and blessedly, mercifully quiet. I build furniture now. My hands, once desperate to hold life inside broken bodies, now shape wood into something useful, something whole, but with a light it could not comprehend. I made it stare into the sun, until it blinked. But victory is not the same as safety. The dark is still out there, and the thought that lingers, the one that keeps my guard forever half raised, is the entity's final whisper. Not a threat, just a truth, a simple chilling truth. From the universe it inhabits, there are other frequencies. So now in my clean, quiet workshop, surrounded by the soft music of my tools, sometimes my hand goes still, the saw stops, the plane rests on the wood, and in that perfect moment of silence, I listen, not because I want to, but because I have to. I am the one who listened. And somewhere, in the endless, silent static, between the stars, I can't shake the feeling that something else is now listening for me.